Someone was throwing rocks at my window, and they knew I was home alone. It was a dark and stormy night, the kind I actually loved. Thunder, lightning, rain pouring down. I was home alone. My dad worked night shifts, so I stayed up late watching movies. That night it was Forrest Gump, again. Around 2 in the morning I finally turned off the TV. I loved falling asleep during thunderstorms. The sound was relaxing. Then something hit my window. Not rain, something solid. A thud. At first I ignored it, but then it happened again. Another thud. That's when I realized someone was throwing rocks. My heart started racing. It wasn't my dad. If something was wrong, he would call. Another rock hit the window. Then another. Then another. Faster. The rain started to lighten up. That's when I heard something else. A truck engine running outside on the street. Finally, I got out of bed. I ran downstairs to call the police. But as I passed the front door, I saw something through the small window at the top. A face. Someone was standing outside looking directly at me, and they were smiling. I ran to the kitchen and called the police. They said an officer was already nearby. Then the person outside started twisting the doorknob, then slamming into the door, trying to break it open. I grabbed a knife and yelled,
"Police is already on their way,"
and ran back upstairs. After about a minute, everything stopped. No rocks, no banging. Then I heard the truck drive away. A few minutes later, the police arrived. I tried to describe the face best I could, but couldn't provide him with any information about the truck. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if that door had opened. But the thing that still bothers me is that whoever it was knew I was home alone. You know that feeling when someone's watching you, even though you're alone? When I was in my 4th year of high school, my bedroom had a strange layout. Across from my bed was a small alcove. Because of the way the closet was positioned in front of it, that corner never received any light. Not from the ceiling, not from the window, just darkness. One night I couldn't sleep, and I started to get that feeling, like someone was staring at me. Eventually, I opened my eyes and my gaze went straight to that dark alcove, and I saw it. A faint outline, something darker than the darkness around it. I got goosebumps immediately, but I told myself I was imagining things. Just shadows. Just my mind playing tricks. So I closed my eyes again, trying to force myself to sleep. But that feeling never went away. The feeling that something was watching me. Then I heard it. A creaking sound, like someone shifting their weight on the floor. I opened my eyes again, and my heart dropped. The shadow wasn't in the alcove anymore. It was standing in the opposite corner of the room. Every instinct in my body started screaming. I pulled my pillow and blanket over my head and stayed like that, terrified. Eventually, I cried myself to sleep, just hoping that whatever was in my room wouldn't come any closer. And to this day, I still know one thing. I didn't imagine it. My parents didn't believe in ghosts. Not until their honeymoon. My parents went to Key West for their honeymoon. When they checked into their hotel, they were told the room was non-smoking. My dad smoked at the time, so they asked to switch rooms. The hotel agreed and moved them to another floor. When they stepped off the elevator, the smell of fresh paint was overwhelming. Down the hallway, a man was painting the wall. Paint cans, drop cloths, brushes, everything you'd expect. My parents greeted him as they walked past, but the painter didn't respond. He didn't look up or acknowledge them at all. When they reached their room, the smell of paint was even stronger inside. So strong they couldn't stay there. They went back downstairs to ask for another room. When they explained the situation, the front desk looked confused. The attendant said there was no painting scheduled on that floor, but agreed to change their room anyway. My parents went back upstairs to grab their luggage. But when they reached the hallway, the painter was gone. No paint cans, no brushes, no drop cloths, nothing. And the smell of paint had completely disappeared. The next morning, they overheard a tour guide talking to a group in the lobby. The guide mentioned the exact floor my parents had been on. Years ago, a painter had been working there. He slipped and fell down the elevator shaft, dying instantly. My parents don't normally believe in the paranormal, but after that night, they're not so sure anymore. Sometimes the scariest part of being alone somewhere is realizing you might not be alone. My school's library stayed open until 2 in the morning, mostly for idiots like me who didn't start essays until the last minute. Most of the books were in the basement, a place called The Stacks. Long hallways, huge shelves, and thousands of books. One night around 11, I was down there working on a research essay. Everyone had already left except one guy standing a few desks away from me. After a while, I started hearing something. Someone flipping through book pages really fast, making that loud whipping sound. At first I ignored it. I figured someone else was just looking for a book, but it kept going and going. After about 5 minutes, I got annoyed enough to go tell them to stop. I stood up and took a few steps toward the shelves. The noise stopped instantly. So I sat back down and everything was quiet again. About 10 minutes later, the sound came back, only this time it was even louder. The guy studying near me finally snapped. He stood up and started walking through the shelves looking for whoever it was. I got up too. We split up and walked down opposite sides of the same row while the noise kept going, louder and louder. We both reached the end of the shelves. No one was there. And no one could have walked in because we were right next to the entrances. Eventually, we both just went back to our desks. I figured it had to be some weird fan noise or something. The moment we sat down, the noise started again. Only this time it sounded like it was coming right beside his chair. And then, a chuckle. A dry, crooked laugh. Like the kind you'd expect to hear from an old witch in a dark storybook. The other guy immediately shoved everything into his bag, looked at me, and said,
"Fuck this!"
Then he ran. I was also out of there 5 seconds behind him. And to this day, I still won't go down into the stacks at night, even if there are other people there. If you like creepy horror stories like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean a lot. And it's completely free.